Welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Astronaut Gaming. Thank you so much for joining. So today we are actually going through my favorite deck in the standard format. I think this could be the answer to a lot of top decks out there with a very good matchup spread across the board. So we are going to go through the Pokemon, some of the tech cards that I've included in this list, and then we will jump into some games. But first off, the core of the deck is this Galarian Moltres here with the Malevolent Charge ability. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can attach up to 2 Dark Energy cards from your hand to that Pokemon, which means that if you have 2 Dark Energy and a Moltres, as well as access to a 3rd energy card of any type, you can hit Fiery Wrath in 1 turn. It does 20 damage plus 50 more for each prize card your opponent's taken. So let's say your opponent gets down to 5 prize cards, because this is a single prize deck. They've taken 5 prize cards, that's 270 damage, which is pretty insane for a single prize Pokemon. So that is the start. It is also a dark type, which is a big deal because Mew VMAX, which is the best deck in standard right now, is weak to dark. So you are automatically taking a good matchup into the best deck, which is always something you want going into a big tournament. So let's check out the rest of the list. In terms of other attackers, we have 1 copy of Hoopa, just to put some chip damage onto onto your opponent's big Pokemon, or to take knockouts on smaller things like evolving basics, such as Sobbles, Drizzles. You can KO things in the mirror match as well with Hoopa. But if it's on the bench and moves to the active spot, you do 90 damage. And then you won't be able to use Assault Gate again since it started in the active spot. So either your Hoopa gets KO'd, or you'll need to use Scoop Up Net to pick it back up. You can reset and use Assault Gate in the future. Some other important cards in here, Coughing and Weezing. So Coughing has the Ascension attack, which allows you to evolve into Weezing, which is amazing. One of the best attacks ever on an evolving basic. Ascension is just so good. And Galarian Weezing, 130 HP, dark type, but that doesn't actually matter. What does matter is the ability here, Neutralizing Gas. As long as Weezing is in the active spot, your opponent's Pokemon in play have no abilities except for Neutralizing Gas. That means Genesect V has no ability. It means that Arceus V-Star has no ability. It means that Sobbles and Drizzles and Inteleons, that whole engine that so many decks are using, is completely useless as long as Weezing is in the active. Because this is a setup deck, we're looking to take big knockouts late game. Having this barrier at the start is a huge boost for us because it brings the opponent's speed back down to a level where we can pretty easily manage whatever they have to throw at us. The attack is also really useful as well. Severe Poison, they are poisoned and you put 4 damage between turns instead of 1 like usual. And that's a big deal because there are some decks that use healing, such as Arceus Duraludon. I think some Arceus Duraludon decks are going to start teching in 1 to 2 Hyper Potions to help heal off their Duraludons and Arceuses. And so if you're able to use poison on them instead, it allows you to rack up damage that can't immediately be healed. So it is pretty good, not the strongest attack out there, but it is on a very strong ability Pokemon. So we are going to get the most out of it that we can. Our other attackers, we have 1 copy of Sableye V, which has Crazy Claws. It does 10 damage plus 60 damage for each for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So let's say you set something up with Weezing, you put 4 damage counters on it, they retreat. You are able to quick shooting, that puts 6 on it. Then all of a sudden, Crazy Claws is doing 370 damage because of the 60 damage counters that were already on there. So that is pretty wild. You can get up into some huge numbers with Sableye. And this is going to be our out to win actually a decent amount of those matches where we're up against high HP decks that we just can't hit those numbers without Sableye. Our final main attacker is we are teching in 1 copy of Galarian Zapdos V. The important reason that this is in here is that it is fighting type, and With its ability, it can attack for 1 energy. So it has the ability Fighting Instinct, where the attacks cost 1 less energy for each of your opponent's Pokemon V in play. Let's say that you are up against an Arceus deck, and they have 2 or 3 Arceus and other V Pokemon in play. If they have 3 in play, then the attack cost of Thunderous Kick is actually just 1 fighting energy. And if they only have 2 in play, that's fine, because you can always Raihan to the Zapdos, and then have your second attachment to still use Thunderous Kick. And Thunderous Kick will KO Gengar VMAX, it will KO Arceus V and V Star, it will KO Jolteon V. And so this is actually an answer to a lot of decks that would otherwise be a little bit of a problem for us. So that is the attacking Pokemon. Let's get into the support line. We have 1 copy of Tapu Koko. The reason it's here is it has free retreat. There are lots of Pokemon with free retreat. I picked this one because it has higher HP than some of the cast forms, which is nice. It's not level ball searchable, but that's okay. I feel like if we're using level ball, we almost always want to get Coughing or some part of the Sobble Drizzile line. But it does have this attack Allure. When I've been in a bad spot, haven't drawn anything, this attack has actually helped me draw out of those situations. And so I think it's just one more tool to help you not dead draw. Because all you need with this deck is to get set up eventually. You are able to sack prizes because Moltres still comes in with big KOs. So does Sableye. Losing this 1 prize to draw 2 extra cards, if you are in that really bad spot, it could be the difference between the win and the loss. And of course, everyone's favorite, for Sobble with Keep Calling, search your deck for up to 3 basic Rapid Strike Pokemon, which is just Sobble in this deck, and put them onto your bench. Drizzile has the ability Shady Dealings. When you evolve it, you can search your deck for any trainer card. And then the big Inteleon has Shady Dealings. When you evolve it, you can search your deck for any 2 trainer cards. Our other Inteleon has the Quick Shooting ability. We play 2 copies of this one, 1 copy of Shady Dealings. This one has Quick Shooting, where you can put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon per Inteleon per turn. So this does add up pretty quickly. The last thing I'll note here is that Inteleon is not a bad attacker. 2 energy for 70 on a single price Pokemon. Not great, but it's not bad. And this Inteleon actually is a pretty good attacker. For 2 energy, it does 120 and does 20 snipe to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. And you'll notice that we are playing 1 tech water energy to be able to use Aqua Bullet in some of the single price matchups. So this will actually see a bit more play than it would otherwise. But let's go through our trainer line now. So for supporters, we are playing 4 copies of Professor's Research. Discard your hand, draw 7. We're playing 2 copies of Marnie, where each player shuffles their hand, puts it on the bottom of their deck. You draw 5, your opponent draws 4. It's just a good way to disrupt as well as to draw cards yourself. 2 copies of Clara. This is the heart and soul of the deck. This is how you're getting your Moltres back in the late game to take big knockouts. You can put up to 2 Pokemon from your discard pile into your hand, and up to 2 basic energy cards from your discard pile into your hand. So this is really helpful for getting back Moltres, for getting back like a missing part of your Weezing line that you had to discard or that got knocked out early, getting an Inteleon you need. Maybe you just need the Sableye back or the Zapdos back because they have 2 Arceus in play and you want to KO both. Either way, you can do it all with Clara, one of the best cards in the deck, absolutely. We're also playing 2 copies of Boss's Orders, where you bring something up from their bench to knock it out, hopefully. And 2 copies of Raihan. This is an essential card in this deck. There are times when you are going to have to accelerate extra energy, whether that is to Moltres because you can't find a 3rd energy otherwise. It could be to Sableye, it could be to Zapdos, but those 2 copies are a big deal for us. And you can only play this card if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. But if someone did get knocked out, you attach a basic energy from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon, then search your deck for any card. It's a computer search. So that's our supporter line. For the items, this is going to be pretty straightforward. 4 Quick Ball to get basic Pokemon, discard a card, get a basic. 4 copies of Level Ball. Search your deck for a Pokemon with 90 HP or less and put it into your hands. So that's Sobble, Drizzile, Coughing. 3 copies of Evolution Incense to search for an evolution Pokemon. That's our Inteleon line plus Weezing. We have 2 copies of Energy Search to bring out our Dark Energy for the most part, but it is helpful when you need that Tech Fighting or Tech Water energy that you can use Energy Search to bring it back. And then we are playing 3 copies of Scoop Up Net. I would love to include a 4th, but there just isn't the space in this list. You can put one of your Pokemon that isn't a Pokemon V back into your hand, and you discard all attached cards. Helps us to reset Hoopa, to reset Weezings if we're in the mirror match and trying to bounce between different Weezings. It helps us pick up Inteleons so that we can use the Drizzile Shady Dealings ability again, or so that we can quick shooting an extra time, or maybe even Big Shady Dealings a second time. Then our last item card is Air Balloon to retreat. And so that's helpful to just slap on an Inteleon. If we start Sableye or if we start Zapdos, this is a great way to get them out of the active spot. And the final couple cards in here, we're playing 2 copies of Training Court. I know a lot of these Moltres decks only play 1. Because we are playing the extra basic energy techs, we have to play 2 copies in this deck. And I also think that 2 is just really comfortable as well. It means that you, in theory, will always have one into the late game if you need it, that you can search out with Inteleon. Then for our energy, we have 6 dark, 1 fighting, 1 water. So this is the version that I'm going with right now. It's a little more teched out than some other versions. And we'll talk a bit at the end about some changes I could make to the list and going from here through the Brilliant Stars format. But with that, let's jump into some games. We're going second here and starting Sobble, and we're up against Jolteon. This is a fun one. We'll see how it goes. So I'm not playing Manaphy in the deck, which means that Jolteon has free reign to kill whatever they want, but I am playing the 1 copy of Galarian Zapdos V. So if they bench a second Jolteon V, then we are not in a bad spot. Okay, good to know the fighting energy is in there. So I'm going to bench the Coughing. I don't want to show the fighting energy yet. So I'm going to attach there. If I drop the Court, I don't care about the path except it stops. I don't know if my other Training Court's in deck, so I don't think I can afford to drop that one. And this is not ideal, but we're just gonna keep calling. So 3 Sobble is what we want. Let's see what's in deck. So we have a 2-1 Weezing. We're missing 1 Weezing. We have Hoopa. We have 1 of each Inteleon. We have the Zapdos and we have the energy. So that's what we need. We have Moltres as well. We do have both Training Court, is that right? Yes, both Training Court. To Boss, to Clara, to Raihan. Okay, so we should be set up, I would say, decently well, given that we do have these 2, the Incense and the Level Ball. If they bench another V Pokemon, then I'd say we're in a decent spot. If they don't, then I would say we are not in a decent spot. It also depends on if they're going to kill the Sobble Coughing or Sobble. So there's the VMAX. Let's see what they do. So they want the Zigzagoon to ping one of the bench Pokemon. They want probably 2 Sobbles in play, and they want another Jolteon as their setup. They may forego the Jolteon, depending on whether they think we play the Galarian Zapdos. Okay, but there is the other Jolteon, so hopefully they are playing that down, and we will be a-okay. So one thing to keep in mind is that because this energy is going into the discard, oh gosh, I can Raihan, but that is brutal. This was a beautiful, beautiful hand for us to have. Let's see if we have the same sort of outs in this one. Okay, we have Quick Ball Raihan. That is exactly what we need. That is not bad at all. We need 1 more card, and that card is some way to switch. I think I promote Coughing, You quick ball the water energy either way. Yeah, it seems like they don't have the Zigzagoon. I feel like they would have slapped that down already. But yeah, on our turn, it really depends on our top deck whether we have this Raihan play. If we are able to get it, then I think we are in an excellent spot. But we're going to promote the Coughing because if we don't hit the Raihan, we'll just go into Weezing. If we don't hit it, we can discard that Raihan. Yeah, but that it just doesn't quite work. So let's go ahead, quick ball the water energy. And is the other Raihan in deck? Yes, it is. Okay, so what am I looking for here? I'm looking for maybe a second Coughing. Coco. I think the Coco works. I can Raihan for the Weezing. Now that feels bad though. Okay, so we are just gonna research. And really what we're looking for, we have that fighting energy, we have that. Really what we're looking for is Drizzles here, because now we have exactly what we need. Let's go ahead, get ourselves an Incense. Might as well start putting some pressure on with Weezing, especially because we do have these two other level balls for Drizzle. Let's level ball again, go get ourselves Drizzle. And the Big Shady Dealings Inteleon is in deck, so I think I go level ball here, and then we get the Energy Search. Are we holding the court? We're holding the court, so I'm gonna Energy Search, get the Dark Energy for Weezing, just start, put some pressure on, and then we'll go ahead and level ball again. And with this last Drizzle, we're going to get an Evo Incense so that no matter what they kill, we have access to Big Shady, and we can definitely pull off, where is it? Here it is. We can definitely pull off the Raihan play. Okay, so with that, I think we're all set. You're Poison. And so next turn, we are going to Big Shady for Raihan and a Scoop Up Net are the two ideal cards. And it also means that because Galarian Weezing's in the active, it blocks Drizzles, which is really great for us because it means that unless they Marnie us, that this turn they can't really do anything and they can't disrupt our hand unless they Marnie. So let's see. Are they gonna play the Drizzle? Probably not, right? You hold that. Oh, they're playing the Drizzle. That's okay. Maybe they're trying to get into Inteleon for later. Either way, they are presumably going to be taking a knockout on something this turn. I'm not sure whether they go for the Coco or for a Drizzle. I think Drizzle's probably the better play. Just only leave me access to 2 Inteleons. But let's see, they attach there and a knockout? I guess they're not knocking out here, but presumably they are trying to get a Galarian Zigzagoon. Just waiting for them to bench that Zigzagoon and actually take a knockout before I can go in with the Zapdos. I want them to take a knockout. Come on, Jolteon, find that Zigzagoon. Because otherwise they're just hitting 100 active, and that feels really bad. They are not playing many cards, and they're not playing very quickly, so I'm guessing they have very little in terms of options, just trying to figure out what is the best path forward. No pun intended. But we do have a very good hand right now, so we're hoping they don't Marnie us. We are hoping they take a knockout, because then I think that just about locks up the game. But we'll see what they do. We're just waiting. Oh, and after all that time, there's the Marnie. Oh man, that is heartbreaking. Okay, well, we have absolutely nothing right now. That's great. Hoopa, Moltres. You play the tool down. You're still not taking a knockout on the active, but if you Zigzagoon, you're taking a knockout on the bench. If they are just hitting 100 active, I feel pretty good, because then I can just pitch this hand and search for the big shady on my next turn, because all I need to do is wait until the turn they get a knockout, which is not happening fast enough. Really slowly. Slow data is an accurate name. But they're going to quick ball. Is that going to be the Zigzagoon? Yes. But Zigzagoon doesn't work under Weezing. I completely forgot about this. Haven't played the matchup with Weezing in a little bit. So they are just going to be hitting 100 active. In that case, I probably would have gotten the Sobble. Weezing is pretty disruptive. I was not big on this card because I think in terms of tempo, it gives you so little to work with, but it ends up being a very effective attacker. I don't want to get rid of that. Maybe, okay, so I just go for a net, I guess. So I'll bench this. I have 2 nets in deck. I can get, I mean, what do we not want? Nothing really. I could go for a quick ball. I don't have to though. Okay, I think what I'll do here, I'm just gonna Moltres for one energy. Then we will research. I'll try and manually attach another energy there. Yeah, and now this can retreat. Let's go ahead and scoop up net the big shady. So now we have access to Drizzile and big shady Inteleon. And I think we're actually pretty good. Let's burn this level ball, get the coughing. If they do Marnius again, we just don't need to draw into a coughing. But I'm gonna severe poison and we'll see what happens. So they have 1 card in hand. Presumably just retreat into the other Jolteon, hit the active, unless they do have something sneaky going on in those 2 cards. But on our turn, oh, they have the research. Okay, nice job. And Drizzile. So on our turn, though, the goal definitely is to start by promoting this Coco. Then we big shady for Raihan. Yeah, Raihan and anything else really. We'll go ahead Raihan and energy to the Galarian Zapdos. Oh, Raihan and Stadium. Raihan and energy to the Galarian Zapdos, search out that fighting energy so we can get the attack off. And at that point, we just win the game. As long as we have access to a scoop up net if they try and stall us. A scoop up net or just a manual energy to attach and retreat. But I think they will be very sad to see this Galarian Zapdos coming out. They're gonna hit our Weezing for 100. And I really cannot overemphasize actually how big a difference Weezing makes in this matchup alongside the Zapdos. Weezing stops all of their like draw search, their whole engine. Weezing stops the Zigzagoons, which means they're only hitting 100 active. So as long as you are actually able to get Weezing out against Jolteon, I don't think you need Manaphy. Zapdos and Weezing are more than enough to take care of the matchup. They're scooping the Zigzagoon. I guess that's fine because it gives access to Zigzagoon via Quick Ball if I do Marnie, but we're gonna go for the Raihan this turn. Okay, so promote Coco, and let's Quick Ball a coughing. We don't care about that anymore. Go get the Galarian Zapdos V. We will go ahead big shady dealings, and let's go get ourselves Training Court and Raihan. And so we can bench this Raihan or Training Court. Raihan, go ahead, put a Dark on there, and then search out the fighting, which we knew was in deck from that first turn. Do we want another energy? No, let's leave those in there. That's fine with me. And then go ahead, retreat, and KO. And now at this point, there's nothing they can do. There's a Jolteon on the bench. We have access to, or sorry, there's a Jolteon on the bench, and we have access to specific outs to like training court through a scoop up net, Big Shady, or just through the Drizzile. So I think the only way that they can actually try and stop this from happening is a boss on and KO both of these plus the stadium. And at that point, I just have to, what do I have to do? I have to find the stadium somehow, but it becomes a lot harder to do so. It also does mean I can go in with Moltres though, if need be. So we'll see what they do. They have the fresh Jolteon. They could also go for a Marnie path and hope that's enough, but I don't think that has great odds just because I still have my nets, and I also just have outs to these Drizziles through Incense and maybe not actually 3 Quick Ball. It's possible I don't have any more outs to Drizzile, so if they Marnie path, that could be a good play, but it just means that you're hoping I don't have something, and I don't think like hope and pray is ever a good strategy. It's not consistent. Doesn't work over the course of a tournament. So they are going to bench the Sobble, presumably bench the Zigzagoon, and we'll see what they take out. Maybe the Sobble, maybe the Tapu Koko. But that's the first step, path to the peak, and that's why having 2 of these training courts makes such a huge difference. So that when the first one gets bumped, or if we have to discard the first one, we still have access to it a second time. Because otherwise, the Zapdos is not doing much. So let's see, both are Raihans in the discard, that's okay. They're interesting, going for the Moltres. Do they have the, oh, they have double Zigzagoon. Okay, sure. I'm into it. So they are taking 1 prize on the Moltres, hitting 100 to the Zapdos, and they're basically saying, have the stadium, or I take 3 prizes next turn, presuming they get a quick shooting Inteleon or some sort of scoop up net. Okay, and there's the research. So we win the game. We have access to Drizzile, and from there we can just get our second stadium and go ahead attack with Thunderous Kick or 340 damage with weakness. So they are going to level ball, I guess just thin in the card out. They don't need it. And Max Thunder Rumble. All right. And so they'll go down to 3 prizes. Let's evolve that Drizzile and take the game. But as you can see, this is not a horrible matchup with the Zapdos. Assuming that you do have everything in your deck that you need, you can definitely make some big things happen. So let's go ahead and get our other stadium training. Whoop, that's not it. Training court. And take the knockout. And that's the game. So definitely possible to beat one of the worst matchups from this past format, but your bad matchups are replaced by some of the Arceus decks. So, you know, we'll take the wins where we can have them, and I think Jolteon is much less of a threat now than it used to be. So something I've been trying in this deck is actually going second, which allows us to keep calling with Sobble or Ascension with Weezing on our first turn. In almost every matchup, there are sometimes we're just going to be stuck, but it means that we can basically get our board set up early. So Sobble is our ideal opening attacker. Let's bench that. And I'd say we're in a really good spot, actually. We can use the level ball for a coughing, attach this fighting energy active, and then keep calling to the bench. And it looks like we're up against the Mirror, which is a really interesting match. And it's one where Weezing actually plays a huge role because it turns off the Drizziles and Inteleons. So let's see how this goes. They're starting Tapu Koko, which in this case is going to be a better start than we have. Let's start with the the level ball. So we're probably getting a coughing here. There's only one other Sobble in the deck. Very interesting, very interesting. So let's see. I think we're going to keep this Sobble active because then the Weezing damage goes into a Sobble instead of into my own Weezing. We do have the other Weezing in deck, which is good. We have 2 coughings, and we're going to have to get rid of 1 Weezing. Or do we? You know, I don't think we do. We can actually hold this hand. So we're going to bench the coughing. Let's see what else is prized. We have our Inteleons. We have Moltres. We have 3 nets, which is important. 2 Boss, 2 Clara. Okay, cool. We look pretty good. So I'm going to bench the coughing. We will attach active and then keep calling. Get that other Sobble out. And so what I expect on their turn is that they will evolve into Weezing, bring this active, and then hit us with the Severe Poison. Forgot what the attack was called. That'll put 40 damage on our Sobble, but we can retreat out of it and go into our own Weezing, Energy Search to evolve, and get that Dark Energy, and then go from there. But it looks like they might actually go for the Hoopa instead, which is really interesting. So let's see, they are able to Drizzile, which is one advantage of going first in the mirror, is that you get to Drizzile, unless they Ascension, you get to Drizzile first. But there wasn't going to be any way that we could reliably Ascension unless we used research and just hope to hit one of our scoop up nets. I don't think that's a super good bargain. I think this is the safer play, so I'm happy with that. But we'll see what they're able to pull off on this first turn. Grabbing another coughing, that's good for them. And something we're definitely hoping to set up ourselves. Okay, so they Marnie us, which means that we lose what we're looking for on this next turn. A little bit unfortunate, but actually quite unfortunate. Okay, let's see. Well, at least I got the Dark Energy. That actually does make a pretty big impact. So we'll go for the Weezing. And I think because I have 2... Yeah, because I have 2 Sobbles in play, I think I can hold on to this Drizzile. And I'm just going to Severe Poison the active. I can't Drizzile anyway under their Weezing lock, so I would have to boss. But this turn, there's nothing I really want to boss. They could always just retreat out of these 2. They can scoop up net the Hoopa, which they can scoop up net the Weezing as well. But because this is what they're pressuring with, I would rather they the damage go on Weezing. All right, so I think we'll attach here, and we'll just Severe Poison again. It's the same thing as passing. So in this case, if they don't scoop up net or retreat, then they're in a pretty bad spot. And if they do, then we're in kind of a bad spot. But yeah, there's the net. I guess now we can try and stall with boss. So I think the play is going to be boss, the Hoopa, and then Drizzile. Oh, they're Marnieing us. That is okay with me. So really what we need is another coughing down this coming turn. That would be great. We have the coughing and we have Drizziles. I want to evolve into the Drizziles in this case, even if we can't use them. Although it looks like they're going with Hoopa, so we can use them. Wonderful. Okay. So my goal this turn now is to Ascension into a new Weezing. So let's see, we'll start with the Drizzile. Go get ourselves, we already have a supporter. The thing is, we only have one Weezing in deck. If I rip the research here and draw it into the Weezing, then I can't Ascension, and I'm pretty stuck. So what do I want? I think maybe I just want a Clara. Quick Ball. I think actually we'll go for the Clara this turn just because it is important enough to get these Weezings back. And then we'll get our energy. We'll bench that second Coughing. I'll go ahead and quick ball the Fighting since that won't be any real use here. We can go get the Hoopa, which will allow us to be a bit more aggressive on certain turns, KOing their Weezings. And then let's go ahead and get, I'm just going to say an Incense, because that can help us reach one of our Quick Shooting Inteleons. I think Quick Shooting is going to be pretty helpful once we are able to get around the Weezing lock. So I will go ahead and bench this, or put that onto the bench, and then we'll Ascension into Weezing. And now on their turn, let's look at what's in their discard. So they've played 2 Marnie. There's maybe 1 more in the deck, but we can expect that we won't see too much hand disruption moving forward. They've played 1 Scoop Up Net. They either play 3 or 4 total. And I think most lists are playing 3 right now. So we haven't used any of our nets, but they do have 1 prize on us. So we're in an okay spot. Not perfect, but not the worst. And there's their second net. That's okay. So they're going to go in with the Weezing again, and we don't mind that at all. We're going to evolve into our benched Weezing, evolve that up into a Shady Dealings, or no, sorry, the Quick Shooting Inteleon, and then research on our turn. When they're playing the Zapdos build as well. That's fun. So it's an actual mirror match. All right, so this is, yeah, a great draw as well. We'll go into Quick Shooting. And then I will research. And we really wanted a Scoop Up Net in this hand, but we didn't get it. Let's get rid of the Zapdos, go grab a Coco, because I think Coco will be pretty relevant in this match. We've seen it's definitely been helpful for them already. Go ahead, get back a Dark Energy. And from here, we just Severe Poison. But this is not a great spot to be in. So coming back into our turn, we'll have 120 damage on the Weezing. They won't be able to Quick Shooting it because we do have Weezing active, but we're not able to retreat out of the Weezing, which is quite unfortunate. Okay, and there is exactly what we need. So let's, what's in our discard there? Yep, okay, so we're gonna attach that. We'll go ahead and take the Fighting Energy, attach Fighting active, and now we can retreat for 1. And as long as we're still in Weezing, this one is not under threat at all, which is great. So let's, just because we can, we'll go ahead and get the Drizzle. We probably should have done that last turn, but that is okay. So now we Severe Poison again. The important part is that Weezing is active, and so now they have to find their 3rd Scoop Up Net without access to Drizzle or Big Shady, or they have to retreat in some way, otherwise they're going to get poisoned coming back into our turn. But we are able to break the first Weezing, so that is definitely good. We get 1 prize. We're all tied up on prizes, and predictably they do promote the Weezing. So I'm going to go ahead, attach to Hoopa. And do we want the Fighting back? No, we don't. We'll just Severe Poison. So coming back into my turn, I'll be at 120, they'll be at 80, and if we are able to find a net, I could net into, well, I guess I could net into this Weezing if we do find the net. I think that would be pretty good. But we don't find it. So I'm gonna go ahead, get the fighting energy back, and let's just put that on this Inteleon. I forgot if the water's in deck. I think the water is in deck. I'll go ahead and put it there anyway. And they'll be at 120. So this is not a great spot, but they're gonna take a prize off our Weezing, and hopefully we get to take a prize off of their Weezing. They still need to find the net, which, as long as our Weezing's active, is definitely still an obstacle for them to face. They're attaching active, which means that they are just going to take the double knockout. They're fine with that. So they go down to 3 prizes, we go down to 4 prizes, but we get to respond right now with a KO on something with our Hoopa. So let's see what they are promoting. Okay, sounds good. I'm gonna bench the Sobble. And because Raihan's not active because the damage happened during poison, but I am gonna take one of these back. And let's go ahead and put the Moltres on the board. Get those 2 energy down, because now that's an attacker with a decent amount of HP that's just gonna be able to take big one-shots. And we'll retreat into Hoopa, quick shooting active, and Assault Gate for knockout. So we have it tied up. We have the Moltres available. The only problem, and this is a big problem, is that this Hoopa is stranded. But we'll see what they do. They need to take 3 knockouts still, and I think this one actually will be hard for them to get unless they have their own Moltres, and there it is. So presumably they are going to be knocking out this Hoopa. Maybe they have the boss in hand. I guess that could be a Drizzile into net into Drizzile. Okay, so they're just going for the quick shooting. At this point, I don't think that quick shooting actually does very much. I've had it for an extra turn, and as you saw, that did help me take the knockout. It was potentially relevant with Weezing if I was able to use boss, or they were retreating without scoop up net. But in this case, I think we just try and go in with this Moltres. Yeah, and they're having to Bird Keeper. Very interesting. We would love a Marnie right now. Marnie would be incredible. And we will have access to it with Drizzile next turn. Yeah, I think Marnie's pretty strong. I'm not sure exactly what they'll be able to do into that. They have no free retreaters on their bench. And this Weezing's not putting any pressure. They would have to Raihan, but I actually like our odds right now. And we just hard drew the Marnie. Okay, well, in that case, let's start with getting a Dark Energy back. We'll just attach that to Moltres. We know we're doing that every time. How many Weezings are in the discard? 2 Weezing in the discard. I'm gonna see if my other quick shooting's in here. Yeah, we do have the second quick shooting. We can potentially KO this Coughing next turn. That would basically seal the game for us. Okay, so do I want to bench the Sobble? I think I do. And then we'll Marty. So we're in a good spot. I'm going to put 1 quick shooting ping here and 1 here, and that way they have to evolve both. Otherwise, we take the KO with double quick shooting next turn. So let's retreat into Moltres. 1 ping here. 1 ping here. And we have the boss as well, which is great. Fiery Wrath. And so we also do have the Drizzile because we put that Sobble down. Drizzile next turn for Clara. Get our second Clara to bring back Moltres if they do end up KOing it. But at this point, I really just don't know what they're able to actually do. They don't play 3 Weezing, so they would need a Clara or an ordinary Rod just to evolve it. But if they're using Clara, I guess do Clara for Moltres Weezing, but then you still need to evolve both of these. So I think we do actually have it pretty wrapped up, unless they have the Drizzile in their hand in addition to Clara, which would have been pretty nuts. We'll see what happens though. They're going to play out their turn. In general, this mirror match is pretty rough, but as you can see, the Weezing puts in a lot of work. Do they have the net? Must have the net. I guess the question is, can they respond with another KO after I kill this Moltres? How many Claras do they have? They have 1 Clara left in deck. Well, I now have a Quick Ball. I could Marnie. Let's see what they get off of this Drizzile. If they get the Clara, no, they get a Level Ball. Oh, but benching this Sobble's bad. Okay, we win because they re-benched the Sobble. That was a bad idea. I can scoop up net to quick shooting 3 times. Okay, so let's go ahead and get ourselves a Clara. And we can get the Moltres back, get our energy back. And we have wrapped up the win. This was really close, but as you can see, coming down to just benching 1 Sobble actually makes the difference between a win and a loss in this case. I don't know what they'd be able to do responding on their turn, but we have the win here. So we're gonna quick shooting. Yeah, and there's the scoop. All right, so we're back to the deck list. Let's go through a couple different options for packs, talk about some of the matchups, and for that, I'm gonna switch over to a spreadsheet real quick. Right now, we're looking at some tournament results, specifically from the Sunday Open, which was one of the first big tournaments with Brilliant Stars Legal, followed by Late Night number 29. Sunday Open had over 100 people, Late Night had over 300 people playing. Between the 2 tournaments, we had 26 Dark Box players, and so these are the records, the win rates, and I wanted to go through some of the tech options for each matchup. The first deck we have here is Mew VMAX. This is the best deck in format, the most popular deck at pretty much every tournament, and we have a 17 and 13 record against it as Dark Box between these 2 tournaments. That is a 57% win rate, but something I think that is very true with this deck is that your win rate scales based on skill. So if you really understand the deck, your win rate with Dark Box will be higher than 57% against Mew VMAX. And the reason for that is that it is very hard for them to actually win the game as long as you are able to set up Sobbles early game and attackers late game. If you get double Moltres, so Moltres back-to-back turns, there's absolutely nothing they can do. You will win. If you can even get 1 Moltres late and then still get some pressure with other Pokemon earlier, take some prizes, then you will win that game. You are looking to take care of 2 Mew VMAX, but you will also settle for a Meloetta, a VMAX, and another Pokemon like Genesect. That's 6 prizes. Hoopa is really great for dealing with the Meloetta, so that's something we're looking toward early. Weezing also shuts them down. The next most popular deck, and one of the big winners from this first weekend, is Arceus Duraludon. And as you will see, this is an absolutely abysmal matchup. Between these two tournaments, Darkbox was 4-23 with 1 tie. And that's just about a 15.5% win rate. So there are lots of different ways that you can change this matchup to make it slightly better. I don't think there's anything you can do without messing with the consistency of the deck that would make this a positive matchup. But you can bring it from a 15%, I'm hoping all the way up to like a 40%, which is not too bad for your worst matchup. So some possible techs. Zapdos V, it hits the Arceus for 1 energy and takes a KO. If they happen to bench 2 Arceus, you can use Clara, or you can use Ordinary Rod to bring back that Galarian Zapdos V and hit the other Arceus. So that could be 4 prizes right there. If the Arceus player is smart, they manage to only bench 1 Arceus and then go with 2 Duraludon, which is that's their ideal setup, is to make you take 8 prizes to win the game. The Zapdos V will get 1 use, and really that's all you need. It is very hard to take the last 4 or last 6 prizes if it's going through 2 Duraludons. Choice Belt, definitely helpful to get your math up higher. If they've taken 5 prizes, your Galarian Moltres does 270. With a Choice Belt, that puts it up to 300. With Weezing damage, that could be 340 if they had 40 from Weezing. If you've been able to quick shooting a couple times, that can take it above that 330 HP. What becomes really difficult is if they also put one of their big charms on Duraludon VMAX. That puts it up to 360 HP. There's almost nothing you can do against 2 consecutive 360 HP Pokemon. But the hard part is that if you are able to pressure their Arceus early, take that knockout, presumably they've only set up 1 Duraludon on the bench, which means that if you do manage to take care of that Duraludon, they might have to manually attach 3 times to that final Duraludon if they don't want to put any more Arceus in play. And so it's possible that if you put enough pressure on them early, which is hard to do, this is not an early pressure deck, but it is possible with the Galarian Zapdos V. If you put enough pressure on them early, there's a chance that they miss an attack with that benched Duraludon. But you are really looking to swing with that Zapdos V early. Sableye V is the only way that you can take a reliable one-shot on Duraludon. So I think oftentimes a line of play could be you take your first 2 prizes with Galarian Zapdos. You take your second 3 prizes with Sableye V using the Crazy Claws attack, and you can get that base damage on there. I think you need 50. Yeah, you need 50 to one-shot a Duraludon. You can get that 50 on there with quick shootings, with Zigzagoon, which is another tech. Double quick shooting plus Zigzagoon gets you enough to one-shot a Duraludon VMAX with Sableye V, assuming that you Raihan to the Sableye. And the reason that I also put Ordinary Rod here is that it can get back the Zapdos. It can also get back your Sableye. So in theory, you could actually attack with 2 Pokemon V, have them take knockouts on those, have a knockout on a single prize Pokemon, and then still have the option for a big Galarian Moltres at 5 prizes, or for a second Sableye V using Ordinary Rod. But that is only possible with Ordinary Rod because Clara takes up your turn, which means that you won't be able to Raihan at the same time, and you need to be able to Raihan for that Sableye. So this is our worst matchup. Every deck in the format is going to take at least 1 bad matchup. It's unfortunate that this is ours, but you can still go through a tournament only hitting 0 to 1 Arceus Duraludon and get into Top Cut. So the Darkbox Mirror, 6 of them were played. Obviously, that's 50%. And some techs from the list that I was using that I think are pretty helpful in the Mirror. Getting a 3rd Coughing. It just means that you have more outs to it early game, as well as, again, Scoop Up Nets are so important in this matchup. Helps you get extra quick shootings late game, extra big shady dealings. It helps reset your Hoopas, and it helps reset the poison damage on your Weezings. So a 4th Scoop Up Net is actually a pretty big advantage in the Mirror if you can find the space for it. Gengar, our next one, 14-2 in these two tournaments. That's an 88% win rate. And Gengar's just an absurdly positive matchup. With Weezing, all of their Houndooms don't work unless they boss out of the Weezing lock. And even if they do, you have Galarian Zapdos V to smack them in the face. There's almost nothing they can do if you set up, so it's a very positive matchup. Next up is Rapid Strike Malamar. In these tournaments, Darkbox went 6-2-1, which is about a 70% win rate. The third Coughing is also really helpful in this matchup because just getting the Weezing out turn 1 and leading with that throughout the game is going to be really helpful. It means that they can't use their Drizziles or Cinccino's, depending on which engine they're playing. They can't use their Octillery for the Rapid Strike search. It means that they will have a tough time KOing your Pokemon back to back to back. And so if you're able to chain even like 3 Weezings in a row, combine that with quick shootings from the back, and then move into another single prize attacker after that, it's going to be very, very difficult for them to keep up and chain those Malamars in the same way that you're chaining your attackers. For the same reason, Ordinary Rod really helpful, helps you get better access to Weezings and just anything else you might need. Ice Rider, I'm including Ice Rider with and without Arceus V-Star. And the deck is 8-5 against Arceus, 61% win rate. Choice Belt is helpful because with that late game Moltres, you can hit 300 with the Choice Belt, plus 1 quick shooting is 320 to kill the Ice Rider VMAX. You can also hit the Arceus V and V-Star with Galarian Zapdos V if they are playing that version. Overall, though, it's a 3-prize deck versus your 1-prize deck. You can hit a lot of damage, and they don't really have healing. So this is going to be a positive matchup for you in almost every case. Arceus Bird Box, so looking at Galarian Moltres V, Galarian Zapdos V, Hoopa V, just anything that can hit weakness on something or is a strong attacker in its own right. So we're 2-4 against it, 33% win rate. And I think Zapdos V actually helps quite a bit. So Zapdos might boost this win percentage up a little bit. I'm not sure it's going to be favorable for you, since one of the things that this deck does struggle with is high HP 2-prize Pokemon. We're trading 3 for 1. We're very happy to do that. But high HP 2-prize Pokemon can cause some problems, which is why you'll see the Arceus decks and several more Arceus decks that aren't on the list are all iffy matchups. But if you are able to deal with those V-Stars early with the Zapdos V, it means that late game you can hit some big attacks with your Moltres. You can always hit with Sableye as well. Overall, I think it's an okay matchup. I still wouldn't say it's positive, but the Zapdos helps a lot. Suicune Ludicolo, this is obviously 100% and not 50%. But in this case, only 1 game played. I don't think it's a great matchup. I don't think it's a terrible matchup. I would say it's around 50-50. There's not too much that you can do to tech for Suicune Ludi. I also wouldn't tech for this matchup. I think if you're teching, you should do it for Arceus or just for general consistency, maybe the mirror. Moving on to Jolteon, surprisingly, the deck is 3-0 against Jolteon between these two tournaments. And I think part of that has got to be Galarian Zapdos V. It can KO a Jolteon in 1 turn, and they cannot KO the Zapdos again. So if you're able to get a Zapdos out, kill their Jolteon with Raihan, presumably, then at that point, there's pretty much nothing they can do. You might just auto-win the game. So this is a huge tech that swings the matchup. Personally, I am not playing Manaphy in the deck. I think Manaphy is an excellent card, but given the popularity of Jolteon and Rapid Strike Urshifu right now, pretty low. I don't think that Manaphy is worth the tech slot. I think Zapdos does a better job of what Manaphy did. Against Rapid Strike Urshifu, I think you just concede the game, and that's okay. If you hit one of those, it's just bad luck. You take the bad matchups where you need to. But the last couple decks, Durant actually won the late night tournament. There was one Durant that won, one that placed decently well, and the rest all had sub 500 records. So this is a deck that you might see a lot more often now. This is not a deck I think you have to worry about too much, because most of the people playing it clearly just aren't having that much success with it. There are a lot of good players who know how to play against Durant back when it was in standard with Black and White Noble Victories back in the day. Or if you just figure it out now, how do you play against this modern Durant deck? It is fairly easy to beat once you do realize how to play the matchup, as long as you have the tools and the resources to get KO after KO every turn, switch out your active if they confuse you, then you should be okay. So 50-50 seems fine, but I think the water energy to be able to attack with big shady dealings in Teleon, as well as the fourth scoop up net to allow your resetting, especially out of confusion, is going to be really helpful. The reason that you can't retreat super easily is because they play Galar Mine, the stadium. So that fourth net is going to be really helpful for switching. I haven't played the matchup a ton, but what I want to try coming up the next time I see it is only benching Sobbles. And so hopefully I evolve up into my Inteleons as quickly as possible. If I can have double quick shooting Inteleon plus shady dealings, I can attack with shady dealings, do that 120 to the active 20 snipe that KOs the Durant, puts 20 on the bench. Double quick shootings, really easily you start to take care of their board, and that's how you get ahead on prizes. Additionally, one thing to keep in mind with the Durant matchup is that quick shooting Inteleon can attack for 70 damage for 2 energy. Durant has 90 HP, and it usually has a cursed shovel attached. Cursed shovel, if you're knocked out by damage from an opponent's attack, you discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, and so it's just another way for them to mill your deck. But if you KO them with quick shooting, that is not damage, meaning you don't have the 2 discards. So evolving up into those quick shootings and into that shady dealings, the big one, early on is really, really important for the deck. I would also try and search out as many nets as I can, just keep them in hand, because that way they can't be milled. And if they do Marnie, then the nets are at the bottom of the deck anyway, so they still can't be milled. So that's one that I could see going much more positive if you're able to figure out a good game plan. Then again, it's Durant. There are times where they are going to mill you and get rid of both of your Inteleons, or both scoop up nets, or both of your Claras. It happens every single time that someone plays Durant. They just hit the nuts in terms of what they're discarding, and there's nothing you can do. But I think overall this could be a even to positive matchup. Next up is Eternatus. Between these two tournaments, 2 and 3 against Eternatus, which is 40%. I think that this is a very unfavorable matchup without Galarian Zapdos V. With Galarian Zapdos V, I think it is a very positive matchup. The reason being that all you need to do is KO 2 VMAXs. With all of their board set up, they're going to have multiple Pokemon V in play, which means all you need is that 1 energy. You never need to Raihan with the Zapdos V. So as long as you're able to kill 1 VMAX with Galarian Zapdos V, and then from there, just take a couple prizes with Moltres, with Hoopa, or just Clara back the Galarian Zapdos V and kill another VMAX. So this should not actually be too hard of a matchup as long as you have the Zapdos and the fighting energy in deck. Single strike, only 1 match played, but I think this is not quite as positive as Gengar up here at 87%, but this is still very positive. They can't use their Houndooms, they can't use the Dark Signal, Dark Ball, I don't know, Umbreon's ability, and they can't Crobat either under Weezing block. So they just have a pretty rough time, and you are able to get those big one-shots with Galarian, Moltres V, and Sableye. The Zapdos doesn't really make a difference in this matchup. It could help to KO a random Crobat V, but overall I'd say this is pretty positive. And the last one on here that you may see at a tournament, Mad Party. Between these tournaments, the deck is 3-0 against Mad Party. I think Ordinary Rod is helpful because one of the ways that you're going to be able to go way ahead on the prize race is with your Inteleons. So if you're attacking with big shady dealings, it does 20 snipe to the bench and it KOs whatever they have active. If you're able to get up into your quick shootings, every time they bench a Bunnelby, double quick shooting is a prize for you. So yes, you're getting more Mad Partiers in the discard, but you're playing a single prize deck anyway, it doesn't matter. So I think that overall this is probably going to be pretty positive if you can get up into your Inteleons. because of that, I expect Mad Party to try and boss up your Inteleons as quickly as they can. So that's why the Ordinary Rod could help, or maybe you just Clara for those Inteleon pieces to get them back as quickly as possible. So that is our analysis. Overall, I think this is a really strong deck, definitely one of the top 3 at the moment, along with Arceus and Mew. Maybe Gengar is that 4th one we're throwing in there, but you do have a good matchup against 2 of the top 4, and that is pretty good. Plus, I'm also just going to say this is a really fun deck to play. Gives you so much decision making throughout the game when you're able to search out any card you want, as well as have so many different attacking options. So let's go ahead and switch back to the list one more time just so we can see it. And yeah, I think in terms of potential cuts from here, I could see the water energy going if we decide that attacking with Aqua Bullet isn't super necessary. I'm not sure how much else I would want to cut though. You could cut a training court, but I like the double court because of the Moltres fighting energy. You could cut a research for a Marnie if you wanted to do the 3-3 split, maybe cut an energy surge. Overall, I'd say this is a pretty tight list. If you are going to make any changes, definitely keep the Zapdos, but beyond that, I think maybe switching out 1 or 2 cards depending on what you think the metagame is going to be for the particular tournament you're entering. So go for it, have some fun. But that is the deck. That's the analysis, and there are some games. So thank you all so much for joining. I know this was a bit of a longer video, but I appreciate so much that you stuck through it. Please like the video, comment, subscribe. It makes a huge difference for me, just as someone who's making these videos for fun. It helps increase the engagement a little bit. It means more people can see what I'm putting out there. But thank you again for joining, and I will catch you next time.